Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Keeping It Real show with me, Dancer Shades V. My co host is not here today. She's up getting her hair done. But in the meantime, I got a special guest for you guys, and I want you guys to give him a really, really warm welcome. He is, wow, when I tell you he is such a DJ, wait till you see what's behind him. His name is Steven Vasquez, and we're going to bring him into the studio now. So let's give him a very, very warm welcome to Steven Vasquez. Here we go, y'all.
Hey,
Hey,
what's going on, Dancer Shades V? Thank you for having me.
how are you?
Doing all right, doing all right.
All right, all right. So, we want to know a little bit about Steven and what Steven does.
All right, so Steven Vasquez. I am a DJ from back in the 70s. I started when I was nine years old, back in 79. My brother was a DJ, sort of inherited from him. And, I've evolved since starting my DJing career, never stopped. But it always evolved. You sort of go with the times, and I was a hip hop DJ, a salsa DJ, a freestyle DJ. So I wear many hats. Music, it's what I love. So I recently have been delving into production, like heavily now into production, and it's been a very satisfying, and now it's becoming profitable for me. So which is why I am so grateful for you to have me on, because again, it's just more exposure for the stuff that I've been doing lately.
There you go. There you go. So, when did you start your DJing business?
So DJing wise, I have, like I said, I've been going since 1979. So my brother used to take me on his gigs, and I was playing on 1800s at the times. The DJs that know the 1800s, the pitch was a little jog. And I used to stand on crates and DJ at these venues because I was just too small when my brother had his turntable set up high. So I used to DJ on crates, and I actually became like a little bit of a gimmick for my brother because, here he is. He has a young kid DJing while he was out there, courting the ladies and stuff like that. So he used me as a gimmick, but because I was so fascinated by what he did, I focused heavily onto it very early, and so I was able to, to mix very well because it's all I focused on. Right? It's like a new toy. I would come home from school, I would run downstairs to the basement and jump on my brother's turntables. And back then it was disco. Disco, we know, you DJs out there, disco's dynamic. You can't lock a pitch and think you're gonna ride that record. No, you're gonna be up and down because that's the way disco was. So I guess I owe a lot of gratitude to playing on disco because it just made me a tighter DJ. So that's how I sort of evolved. And then, you sort of just keep going on with what's the latest and greatest. And so, in the early 80s, I was still doing disco, a lot of dance stuff. And then, you start doing a lot of the hip hop stuff. So I actually have, if behind me, if you see, one side is like truly dance, the other side is like a lot of hip hop. So and that's no green screen. I could pull these out. So it's it's one of those things that you sort of evolve. And then when I started getting heavily into the Latin scene, that scene was, even though I was DJing Spanish at the time back then, it wasn't as heavy as a scene as it was, like, I want to say in the 90s or late 80s, 90s. I started, doing burning a lot of CDs. I'm sure DJs out there remember that phase, right? We burned a lot of CDs, and then I started to, play mixed salsa. At the time in the New York area, we had Johnny Farminati and Norikoto. I don't know if the New York people remember those guys, but those guys were fantastic. And so I was sort of fascinated with what those guys were doing on the radio. And I said, man, that sounds so awesome. I need to get into this. And I sort of honed mixing salsa. And, doing salsa back then, we didn't have these new things that these kids have nowadays, like the intros and all that stuff. You had to know your loops. You had to know, the music, because otherwise you're not going to sound good. Right.
Right.
So, I actually became a very good Latin DJ, and I actually started to develop a client base, especially like in Jersey City. I had a large client base there that they didn't bat an eye when I would tell them, they would pay extra to have me DJ their parties. So, I got into that scene. But again, like music, I evolve. So never, ever did I lose sight of mixing house music or playing freestyle. I just focus on what the people wanted to hear. So
Okay. So tell us about those 10,000 vinyls you have behind you.
So yeah, I mean, this is, believe it or not, this isn't all of it. I can, if you look, this wall goes, this is I want to say maybe half. I have more on my porch. I have more in front of me. I have some at my buddy's house. But this has been, just a years and years and years of my love for music. Just, it can be translated to what's behind me. It's that collection. So, again, I've inherited some of these from my brother. Sort of took over that, his equipment, his records, and then I just started to build my own collection. At the time, my brother maybe had about 8 crates, and I'm up to like 30, 40. So
Wow.
these are like, this again, this is just years of amassing music, and it's just because you just love music and you just want to, have that stuff. And I still buy vinyl. I still am collecting vinyl. Actually, this pile right here, that is all brand new vinyl. And again, it's just my love for for music and just the nostalgia. I buy vinyl because of the nostalgia, and I just still love playing on it. So I just feel more organic on it, and it forces you to become more creative.
Right. So do you have any vinyls that were given to you by artists and things like that that are signed that are collectibles?
I actually do. I actually have something from a salsa record from Luis Perico Ortiz, because we played at a venue, and I could probably find it. It may take me a second, but it's actually signed by him and the entire band. And so, I have a lot of very limited run vinyls that, there's hand few pressed. I have some from Louis Vega. I actually just got one from Giorgio Moroder that is, actually, hold on a second. I'll pull it out right now because it's recent. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's Cerrone, Super Nature. This is actually a limited release. I think this was a very rare run, and I got my hands on one. It's just nice to have that type of stuff. It's more for a collector type of thing. That's just a collector of me that wants to amass these type of things.
Well, not for nothing, but Cerrone is one of my most favorite. I'll tell you why. And I'm in that disco era where I love my disco. I like Gesto Funk. I like, that's one of my favorites. The Jimmy Castor Bunch, he's another one of my favorites.
I have a 45 of that.
There you go. Oh my God, a 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so do you still DJ, and where do you DJ at?
So absolutely, I still DJ. That's one thing I've never stopped doing. We actually have quite a few events. If I can do a shameless plug, we have something on September 24th, which is going to be at the Greenhouse in Wayne, New Jersey. That's going to be like a open format, Spanish, English type of thing. So for September 24th at the Greenhouse, I'm also starting with Alex Pro Productions. Shout out to him on the 16th at Society in Lyndhurst, which is a new nightclub there. So we're going to be spinning there. And there's a lot more things coming down the pipe. I actually have done events down in Miami, New York, and I have a big connection with the folks out in Miami that I tend to fly down there and do some events out there at like the Epic Hotel and the Clevelander. I've done, I actually met your cousins through an event that I was doing in Miami. So
Well,
I actually met Will and Angel at yeah. So we were doing a mutual event, and that's how I met your cousins, and which is how we got here. So
yeah. When you talk to them, tell them your cousin said she will put all your childhood out there.
I don't know that you want to do
Okay,
that.
so can you please tell those that are watching where they can find you on social media like TikTok and
Absolutely. So I'm not necessarily on TikTok, but on Facebook. Most of my suffixes on the social media is just DJ S Vasquez, or Bandcamp. I'm DJ S Vasquez NYC.bandcamp.com. Instagram DJ S Vasquez _ at Instagram. On Facebook, I'm just DJ S Vasquez. SoundCloud DJ S Vasquez. Mixcloud DJ S Vasquez. And Twitter DJ S Vasquez. So
okay.
I'm all on those platforms.
Now, do you do private parties, weddings, sweet 16s, things like that?
So the private events, I have done a few only out of favors for friends, that because they absolutely insist that I have to do their party. So, but I do private events, few, but more so I've been doing the events at these that we hold, like we're doing at the Greenhouse and Society. It's just, listen, now I just show up with a flash drive, I plug into a CDJ, and I'm off and I'm gone. You know what I mean? No computer, no lugging equipment. Just show up there, plug in your flash drive. No controller. It's that easy.
Yeah, it's very easy nowadays.
Absolutely.
Especially me personally, the way I like to mix my music is I use Sam Broadcaster because I do a lot of broadcasting.
Okay.
And so what I do is I do my mix first, and 1, 2, 3, throw it on Sam Broadcaster with a couple of my drops, and I just sit back and eat, watch TV, drink coffee.
Yeah, and you got to with things like that, I'm not totally against that. I think that's wonderful. You just have to be careful with some people that they may take. They may be a little bit resentful because they feel like they're paying you for a service, and now you're not doing much of anything. But to me, that's still a service, right? You're still providing entertainment for them. Right. So, but I actually got. I was at an event, and it wasn't me, but I saw one of my friends got a little bit of slack for actually sitting down and just playing a mix. It's like the guy went to him and says, "Hey, listen, man, I paid you to perform, not to play music. I could have just done that myself." So, it's one of those things that some people will, and I don't know why, because you're getting what you paid for. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a hit or miss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I look at it as I'm still putting in the work. I'm just not physically doing it in front of you.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing you were talking about. If I do any private events, the difficult part with private events, and I'm sure all the DJs out there can attest to this, and they're all well aware of how it works. But, they come to you and they say, "Hey, I have a 4-hour party. How much are you going to charge me?" Right. So to them, they're thinking they have a 4-hour party, when it's not a 4-hour party for us DJs, right? It's easily 2 hours to prep, and days before that to prep stuff. And then you have hours afterwards to tear down and take home. So to the DJs out there, guys, don't shortchange yourself. Make sure you charge what you're worth, and take that into account when you're actually, building your events. It's not the hours of the party. Make sure you get your before and your after pay.
Right. So how did you work it? I know when I host a party, I want half of the money before and half of the money before I get on stage and start hosting.
Yeah, I have done deposits. Again, most of the people I've dealt with have been, close family and friends. And so I don't really fear that. But if it's a client that I would, that I actually have to do, yes, I require a deposit at a minimum. And what you do is you make that a non-refundable deposit, right? So you want to make sure that regardless, even if they cancel on you, you're not going to be, because you have a potential of lost business if they do cancel on you. So, you guys should make sure that you make, don't necessarily take half, but maybe take like $100 deposit, and it'll make them second guess on canceling on you.
Right, right. So, because I'm looking at all those vinyls and I'm like,
Yeah, you can go crazy. I mean, this whole area right there, that's a lot of freestyle right there. You guys, DJs out there will know those are the Micmacs and
Micmac.
yeah, records. So yeah, there's and I still play them. I still use them. They're not just there for decor.
Right, right. So, what is your favorite genre? And I'm gonna guess it's house music, but that's just a wild guess.
Yeah, your guess is right. Yeah, I mean, I can I say I have a favorite? It's the primary one I use, but I love Latin music. I love salsa and I love mixing salsa. I think that mixing salsa it reminds me of the disco era because it really is dynamic and you have to know the music. I try not to use, and again, I'm a DJ and so things are made easier nowadays, but I try not to use a lot of edits. It just, if the last thing you want to do is sound mundane, right? So a lot of these edits, they use the same type of intros, outro, build. So like the bars are the same and stuff like that. So it can become weary on the ears. And I know that with this place in society, the Latin crowd is very particular and they're not too fond of edits. They know their music. And I love crowds like that. People that know their music, because when you drop something, you catch them off guard. That just gives them more energy to dance it. That's the beauty of staying true to what the original music was.
Right. So, in retrospect, if you had to, if somebody came up to you and they said, "I want to learn how to DJ," how would you go about that? Would you show them on vinyl, or would you show them the new and improved way?
So that's actually very good question. It's actually it's happened already quite a few times, and I'm never ever gonna be that guy that says, no, you're gonna have to learn with this or that. I want you to learn on what you're gonna feel most comfortable with, what's at your disposal, right? So if a person has a controller, right, I'm gonna try to teach them as much as possible on the controller. Now, I will force them away from the sync button because that makes you lazy, right? I want you to use your ears. And so that's one button that I never, ever use unless you're going into a transition, from, if you're switching from hip hop to like Spanish or something like that, you want to get that going. Or if like on Tractor, because I play on all types of platforms, I will, use Tractor and play on 4 decks. And there's a lot going on. So with Tractor, actually, I also use the F1. So you're sort of forced to use sync on with that because you're actually underlaying your own beat patterns with that. So is there a right or wrong way? No. What I will say is that I will teach you on whatever you have, but I will not teach you to sync. I'm going to teach you how to beat match. So
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question to you is, would you be open to go into producing music, or do you do that already?
So yes, I'm actually currently doing that. And again, like I mentioned earlier on when you introduced me, is that for once I actually have produced, and I was working with a label, Greenhouse Records. If you Shazam me, I'll come up. The thing with that was, and I learned this the hard way, is that with all the work that you do, you actually, the labels and the distribution, they monetize, they profit from that mostly. And so, I have a DJ friend of mine, Mad Mike. So shout out to Mad Mike. He actually mentioned Bandcamp to me, and I was familiar with Bandcamp, but he was sort of like, he was listening to the stuff I was putting out, and he was like, you really should put your stuff on Bandcamp. And so I started doing that. And I can tell you guys out there that I have made a good amount of money putting stuff out on Bandcamp. And I couldn't have done it without the support of the DJs out there from Newark, from Patterson, New York. These DJs have supported me and they bought my music. And man, I am so grateful. And it drives me to come up with new things for them to play because, to have their support and to see to do something that I love that I'm profiting from, that's a dream come true for me.
Right. So where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
So I actually am a professional network engineer by trade. So would I want to pursue a music career if it becomes something that I can profit from and make a living from, and I can put the network engineering on the back burner? I would love to pursue that. I mean, I think I want to say 99% of your audience listening will probably say the same thing, right? They can put their stuff on the side and pursue music, right? But it's a tough business. There's a lot of talent out there. Even on your site, I saw the talent that's there, and there's, it's very competitive. And so I do it more for the love of music, and anything that I get from that, like the monetization through Bandcamp, is just the cherry on top. That's just extra for me.
And I think that most of us that play music, we do it because we love it. Because
Absolutely.
to be honest with you, social media does not pay you. I don't care where you're at, unless you're on YouTube and you got 8 million followers, you're not getting paid anything.
Right.
So I think, especially now during this pandemic, people look for things, to keep their minds occupied and things like that. And
Yep.
I think that the DJs that are playing and, helping them keep their mind off of all these things going on is a great thing. So do you go on social media? Do you play live?
So I actually I played heavily live for years. I was on a site called Radio 4x4, which is a very popular site. We were sponsored by Adidas. We had actually a very huge following. It turned into a real huge family, and that's actually how I managed to get connections to play in these venues abroad. And they would fly me out there, and they took care of everything. So I used to play. We were playing online back in, I want to say 2006 back then. And we would have a huge following. I mean, we would have these huge events, and this was in coordination with the guys out in Europe. So it was a global thing for us. And, we had somebody from Miami that would run it for the US, and it was a huge thing. And I would love to continue to play online. The problem is that with all the copyright stuff that the record labels kicked in, it just becomes one of those things that it's difficult for DJs to perform with the fear of getting knocked off, and it actually will knock the wind out your sails when that happens. So it's sort of a distraction. So I stream on YouTube. I can stream on Facebook. I can stream on Twitch. Do I do it? No. Every now and then we'll go live, but with a certain frequency where I'm on a site and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I would love to do it more than I am, but my professional career is actually taking precedence over that.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do guest spots here and there on various sites. So, I'll do things like that, but to have a set schedule, it's very difficult for me.
Right. So what is your favorite, and I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to let you say it. What is your favorite equipment?
So
your DJ equipment.
So, I mean, for me, my gear of preference is just CDJs, Nexuses with, any type of mixer. I have a rotary mixer, and that actually, you know what, V? I want to say this is my favorite piece of gear right there. This guy right here, it's a ARS 9000. It is a rotary mixer, and that to me is my favorite piece of gear. I'll say it. I don't care what's on after, whatever's connected to it, I love. That's all I'll say.
I get it. Now, do you have like I know some DJs, they have like 4 turntables when you're DJing live and you're spinning those vinyls.
Yeah.
Are you using 1, 2, 3, 4?
I have 2 in the room, but I have done sessions where I've played a record or a song on each piece of equipment and mixed between them. So it's actually still on Facebook, but they blocked a lot of music that I actually played on there. But I did a session where I jumped from that to that to that to that to that, and then went back around. Every song was on a different piece of equipment. It's just so, it's just to prove that I'm not doing any type of syncing. I'm raw. I'm a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. And I never shy away from playing on whatever, wherever, whenever. I've been in situations where like they're like, hey, this DJ, get on, go ahead. He's got like a WeGo Pioneer controller with virtual DJs, and I played on it. And I don't knock the guy for doing it, but if they want me to play, and I'll play. I don't care. I'm not afraid of anything.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And when you're a DJ, you can't be afraid of anything.
Right. And you know what? To be honest with you, too, I actually like getting taken out of my comfort zone. Right. So it actually forces you to become more creative, and let's see what you're really made of. Let's see what you can come up with on this little we go with virtual DJ. It's not my platform of choice. I'm familiar with it, but what can you do? And can you make people move? And if you can do that, then consider yourself a healthy DJ.
Have you ever been on the radio station?
Yes, actually, for years we were on 88.7 FM here at William Patterson. We actually had a show with my nephew and Lamont Gates and DJ GC. So we actually had an hour show at noon, and it was broadcast on 88.7 FM. So that was, actually very, very, it was actually very successful. We had a huge following, a good fan base. I wouldn't say huge, but it was a good fan base. And, we broadcasted for years out of that station.
Wow. So you got a lot of history with music.
Yeah. And I'm that guy that likes to fly under the radar. I'm like the unsuspecting guy. I can go to an event, and I get just as much enjoyment out of listening to a good DJ play versus going over there to try to perform. I as long as the music's good, I will get just as much enjoyment as just to sit back, relax, and hear a good DJ play. It's happened here in my house. I've had some pretty talented individuals in here, Holiday, NYC, Juan Rodriguez, Mad Mike, Alex Pro. I had some very talented DJs all play here. There's so many, actually, I can't even think of them all, but I can sit back and just listen and hear them play, and it's just it brings me joy.
Right. So I know Todd Terry's one of my favorites. I love the way he spins. I love his style. Also, Kid Capri, like he can sit there and literally make a song in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
he is one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, there's so much talent out there with those guys. I mean, I actually was at an event in Miami, in Wynwood, and Todd Terry was performing there. And Todd Terry, I don't know if the weather wasn't cooperating, whatever, but it was a slow turnout. And Todd Terry didn't care if there was one person or 500. Todd Terry did what Todd Terry does, and he played his ass off. He performed like he was at Ulta.
Right.
And that to me is the consummate DJ. Doesn't matter who's there, he's gonna play, he's gonna rock out.
Right. He's gonna give it 100%.
There was no ego there. It's like, oh, where's the people? No, he went there and he played, and he did what Todd Terry does.
Yeah, and so do you like mixing EDM?
Yeah. You know what? I actually on Mixcloud, there's a lot of EDM stuff that I've done, and so do I like it? Yes. I'm not gonna sit here and say no, I don't like it. Yeah, I like it. I actually like the old EDM stuff, like Maxi and Swedish House Mafia. Those guys, I know those are the popular ones, but I actually even have a Calvin Harris record back there.
Well, you're gonna get that and mail it to me.
Yeah, I can pull it out. It's right there. I actually see the blue right there. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm fans of EDM. I don't shy. Again, I like good music. It could be bluegrass. As long as it's good music, it's good music, right? So whatever makes the people dance, that's what I'm into.
Well, I think a lot of these ultra festivals, one of my favorites is Danik, Tiesto, Steve Aoki. I tell you, when I need to be in my zone, I just pump up that Steve Aoki, and I'm gone.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, it's music that for me it lifts me, but also so does disco, so does salsa. I'm a big salsa fanatic.
right.
I love all types of music. And to be honest, I'm just starting to get into rock and roll, but the old school rock and roll.
I love classic rock. I love alternative rock. I mean, I listen to a lot of classic rock. You say the Doors, but that's the cliches things to say. But
Yeah,
give me George Thorogood, things like that. I can listen to that stuff all night.
absolutely. With me, it's Queen. It's oh my goodness. It's so many of them. There's so many: Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many of them, you know. But listen, we right now I want you to take the camera and show people that wonderful room that you have there.
yeah. There's definitely a lot of stuff in here. So obviously the vinyl's all there, and I just love that pile because it's all new vinyl. And then I have here, there's Tractor because I like to just play on different things, and I want to just know how to perform on all these pieces of equipment. So I have my Denons, and obviously my 1200s, and the Alpha, which is my favorite piece of gear, and then my XZ, and then I actually have more gear. And in that case right there, I actually have a DJM 900 that I modded that's actually rotary as well. So
Okay.
yeah, and then I have stuff in storage. So I'm a little bit of a hoarder. Yeah.
You're a music hoarder.
A music hoarder, yeah. So
So I tell you, I have my 1200s. They were my husband's, but everything that's his, I consider mine, so they're mine.
yeah, absolutely. What's yours is yours. What's mine is yours, and
And what's mine is mine.
Yeah. There you go. What's yours is mine. What's mine is mine. That's it.
There you go. And I tell you, I don't even uncover them because I'm so afraid that the needle's gonna break, or I'm just
No,
like,
but see, you have to use them, because what's the sense of having them if you're not going to play on them, right? So for me, but to be honest with you, my turntables for the longest were the 1800s, and I held on to them for years, and I actually recently just gave them back to my brother, because again, he started me off with that, and it just felt natural for me to just give it back to him. With I actually had an SL3 box, so I set him up with Serato. I gave him a laptop. I said, here, your turntables are coming back home to you. They're sitting in here, and he actually got them back, I want to say about a year ago.
wow.
So yeah, the 1800s, I mean, playing on those, when I played on 1200s, after playing on my 1800s, I felt like I was going from a Volkswagen to a Cadillac, because the 1200s were that much tighter. But I actually mastered it. Playing on the 1800s made me a tighter DJ, because when I got on 1200s, they were like, dude, it's like, how are you so tight on these things? I'm like, because I'm so, when you have sloppy turntables, they're tricky. The 1800s were tricky. It's like you're using your thumb to pitch.
Exactly. Well, Steve, I tell you, you put out a lot of information out there. And I'm going to ask you again, even though I already did, because I want other DJs out there to understand that it's not the style you play, it's the way you play that makes people, want to hear you again. I'm that type that if you're playing and I'm not shaking my bonbon within the first 3 seconds, you're done.
Right.
Because I'm a dancer. So if I don't feel that, it's not happening.
So to that end, can I give you a quick story? I actually had an album release party in Brooklyn at Now and Then, which is that in Brooklyn, that new section where all the nightclubs are. My album release party was there, and just before I started and we were going to start the album release party, which was at 11 o'clock, they had rented the place out, and there was like a comedy night and then a rock band that was playing, right? So they had a sizable crowd, and I showed up there and like, how the heck do I come here and play something when these people were just jamming out to like grunge music, right? So the band tore down, we set up, and I came in with some familiar pop things, but they were more like on the Afro house side. Well, sure enough, I managed to keep that crowd there, and the guys, Juan Rodriguez and Holiday NYC, they can attest to this. It's like, it was I found myself in a difficult situation, but to what you just said, if you can make them shake their rump, they're gonna stay and they're gonna listen to music. Doesn't matter what you're playing. If it's good music, they'll stay in. And so what you do is you play something, and it's like fishing, right? You put the line out there, and you see somebody moving their feet or shaking their bum, and you hook them, and that's exactly what I did, and we made a night out of it. And so it was just to keep even. I kept easily 50% of that crowd, but to keep even 10% of that crowd after what was played was I felt accomplished.
And that was a really good accomplishment.
Yeah.
Accomplishment. I tell you that much. So if I was to come to you and say, Stephen, what would be the best way for me to play at a huge event? Should I do it the new and improved way, or should I do it the vinyl way?
So the vinyl way is difficult because there's a lot of logistics that go along with playing vinyl, right? And not to mention the fact when you have a vinyl setup, that sound for the turntables, that has to be buffered correctly so you don't get any feedback. So it's too difficult to do the vinyl way. Mm-hmm. The vinyl way is like, we did something in Newark at a cigar bar, which was an all vinyl night. That's all we did with my buddies. And you have to set up properly for that. So what I would say is, you got to do the new way. Because you got to be quick, and you got to make sure that, you have everything that you need. So my thing would be do it the new way, but just focus on the music that you have all your grounds covered.
Exactly. And so what do you do when you get those people, customers, or whoever it may be that's hiring you, and they want a specific type of music, a specific song? What do you do with people like that?
So you're saying more so like I'm being hired for a specific type of music?
Right.
So at that point, I will focus on what they want me, but I won't let that dictate the night, right? So who dictates the night? The people that are there and the people who will dance. Okay, so if you're there and a person says, hey, you know what, play rock, but the people there are wanting to dance and they're, they don't want to listen to something, they want to hear something else. I can't go by what the person hired me. I want to make a party for that person that hired me. So I will let the people on the floor dictate the direction I go. I never set myself in a direction. I go with what the direction that people want me to go.
Exactly. Like if you see people dancing to a certain song, you're like, okay, I got something here.
Right.
So we're gonna go a little bit more, switch it out.
Right. And that's the problem with guys that pre-prep their sets, right? That's difficult to do when you prep a set and it's just like, well, wait a minute, the crowd's not feeling it. Why not? And you got to go off in a different tangent. You got to make sure that you're prepared to do that. Because if you're locked into a specific set and people aren't feeling it, well, guess what? You're going to lose the crowd. So you got to be able to adjust and go like be a person of many hats and fly off.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Well, absolutely, and I definitely agree with you there. I don't like when people do presets because I know me, as I like to dance, I want to hear different kinds of music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But that also depends on the way you bill the event that you're doing. So, obviously we've done quite a few events, successful events at the Greenhouse. And again, I'll plug that one on September 24th one more time, but and that one's open format. So guess what? You're going to hear everything there at that point. You're going to hear Spanish. We're going to have a live band. So it's going to be, one of those things that is going to be a little something for everybody.
Right. Well, I'm sorry.
I'll say you wanted to see the room one last time. And so again, this is there's vinyl there. There's vinyl actually back there. Another one of these things. But again, I'll take any of these pieces of equipment and I will go around and I'll play on anything, any one of these pieces of equipment. Or obviously, you know, with the way the nightclubs are set up now, you just go with.
So all in all, how many LPs do you think you own? Just a round figure.
Round figure, I want to say about 18,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Say there's 18, easily, yeah, it's 18,000.
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Would you be open to playing for a radio station? Like if somebody said, hey, can I give you a slot for an hour?
Yeah. So would I be open? I would love to. My thing, again, my professional life dictates my availability. And if I'm going to give you an hour, I'm going to give you 110% of myself for that hour. So I never come in half-assed and say, you know, oh, I can't do it this week. If I'm dedicating an hour, I'm going to be, you know, on that hour, because it's not just for you, but I'm also trying to build a fan base. And that's what made me successful on Radio 4x4 with the guys I did it with. We had a successful slot that was Thursday nights. It was like a happy hour, and we ran that for years. I want to say a good 6-7 years, and we had a following. And so if I have the time to dedicate, I would be open. Absolutely. It's just a matter of finding that time.
Right. Okay, y'all. So you're looking at a new DJ for Triple Threat FM radio.
Let's see what we can do. I'm not saying no.
So, okay. So let me ask your opinion on this.
Yep.
So, you know, you have FM and you have thousands of internet radio stations now, right?
Right.
So with that being said, as I do a lot of reading because I like to be knowledgeable, I know for a fact within maybe the next, I'm going to say 5 years, there's no longer going to be FM. Everything's going to be done internet.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those people that have a up and popping internet radio station and they're like, oh, you're not a real radio station. Get out of here. Listen, we put in a lot of work just like everybody else does.
Mm-hmm. So I would say focus on content, right? So we obviously would all like to monetize from having a radio show on the internet, right? The problem is now you're marketing and you're going to be running ads at that point, which is why people get away from FM and they go to things like alternative sources like satellite radio and streaming stuff on their through their mobile device in the car. So if the content is good enough to keep your audience, then there's no reason why you can have a successful online radio station.
Right.
That's the thing. Focus on the content. You know what I mean?
Right, because I know for me, I put so much work. Like I sat there for 8 years and I watched and I learned and I researched and I know about Yakapa laws and all that stuff already. And I know about the digital data pools and all that other stuff. You know, I really studied hard before I decided to leave the radio station where I was at to embark on my own. And I will tell you, I have 17 DJs. Like
that's awesome. And kudos to you for getting that together, because that's awesome.
You know, and a lot of people ask me, how do you do it? You know, and then when they get on the website, they're like, wow, wow.
Yeah.
You know, like you actually have directors and things like that. I've never seen that on the internet radio station.
Right. So
what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, keep that formula going, because it obviously you're running it as a professional business. It's not like, it doesn't seem like somebody's putting something together from their basement or anything like that. You know, if you run it like a business and again, focus on the content, it should be something that should be pretty successful for you and hopefully at some point become lucrative for you so you can actually make some money from it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
From you know, your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, so I can tell you that when we ran Radio 4x4, because of the amount of viewers that we had, and I actually still have, this is a shirt that we have from Radio 4x4.
I saw.
But yeah, so we actually managed to get sponsors like from the likes of Adidas and stuff like that. So and believe it or not, Gemini, which was a bad sponsor because they wanted us to use their 700 turntables when they came out. But yeah, so we had sponsors, and that actually, again, what they're trying to do, they're just trying to capitalize on your audience, right? So, sometimes you got to do things like, sell your soul to the devil and work with Gemini because it's a revenue stream for them. And I understand why they did it. I wasn't necessarily on board with that, but they had to do what they had to do, right? It's an internet show, and a pretty it was an internet show at the time, and it was pretty popular, and they managed to be able to make some money from it.
Right. And I just feel that, you can be profitable, whether it's on FM, whether it's an internet radio station. Like, we were backed up by T-Mobile.
Right.
Like, you will walk into the T-Mobile store and hear Triple Threat FM radio.
So that's awesome. So, I mean, what you can do too is start to sell that type of service to the corporate branches to stream your content at their store. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's a possibility for you guys. If it's a continuous music thing from Triple Threat, then, that's one of those things that you can actually turn around and say, hey, why don't we try to sell these things to the corporate? But you would have to meet with corporate, and there's so many alternative sources out there that it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Right. Well, and what do you say to those DJs, whether they may be friends or people you just see on Facebook or whatever, that play music with foul language? What do you say about that?
You know what? I'm not necessarily a fan of foul language. It actually, which is one of the reasons why, I mean, I love old school hip hop. I love playing it. But the foul language tends to make me cringe. I mean, I just can't, it's difficult to play something and have somebody enjoy it, and then some foul word comes out and it just ruins the whole song. You know what I mean? I wish there was a way that they can just shy away from or tone it down and use, buzzwords versus foul language. But there's an audience for it, right? So what I may like is not necessarily what others may like. So, play it for the audience that's appropriate.
Right. I'm not a fan because of FCC rules. I'm not a fan of, music with foul language in it. And I'm really strict on that.
So, question for you. I mean, that's fantastic that you do that and you focus that for Triple Threat, but you're not bound by the FCC rules for foul language.
I'm not
on internet. So I wouldn't say
my goal is to be on Sirius XM. And I know on Sirius XM, they curse, they do their own thing or whatever.
Right.
However, I won't do it because you know what? My children are listening.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Again, there's so many alternative methods, and they're all doing the foul language thing. You're actually bringing something different.
Right.
I actually have a friend of mine who's actually a huge DJ on Sirius XM, George Nenadich, who was he actually went to the high school that I went to. So he's a local boy, and he has a very successful show on Rumba. So I hope you get there. I don't see why you couldn't. Just keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully one day I'll catch you on Sirius, so I don't have to listen to the other stuff out there.
Let's see what happens. But Stephen, it was again a wonderful pleasure speaking to you.
Likewise.
It was great knowing your background, and I just love looking at those crates behind you. Listen, keep up your great work, man, and keep in touch because we have my two. They call themselves little cousins, but one is actually older than me.
No, we've always stayed because I met those guys through Radio 4x4 because that's how I was down there. We've always stayed in touch from that day. So yeah. And then one last shameless plug, please check out my Bandcamp site, djsvasqueznyc.bandcamp.com. There's a lot of my music's out there. And again, I only charge $1 for the song. So it's any support you can give me, any love you can show me, I appreciate it. And may God pay you back 10 times over.
I will definitely show you love because I'm going to go check it out. However, once again, please let everybody know where they can find you, like on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, all your platforms.
Okay, so Facebook.com/DJ S Vasquez, Mixcloud.com/DJ S Vasquez. On SoundCloud, there's SoundCloud.com/DJ S Vasquez, and that's 2 Z's in my last name. Instagram, DJ S Vasquez NYC, and on Twitter, DJ S Vasquez.
There you have it, guys. Steven Vasquez, Steven, aka Vasquez. And you can find him on Facebook and on all those wonderful platforms he just mentioned. You can inbox him on Facebook Messenger if you like. If you need him for an event, let them know that Dancer V sent you, so I can at least get 10% out of it.
There you go.
But Steven, it was my pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
It's Sunday. A lot of people are at church. They're just now cooking dinner. So, like I say with every show, we're going to put this up there, and the views will gradually get bigger and better as people, scroll Facebook like they do. And I hope that we can do this again some other time, and maybe we could get you to play live for like 25 minutes.
Be my pleasure. Thank
Well,
you.
you
Thank
take
so
care
much.
of yourself. And again, thank you so much for coming on to the Keeping It Real show.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, there you have it. It was a great interview with Steven Vasquez, and he looks like he's got it going on and he's got it together, You heard different things about how he DJs, his styles, and different things like that. So make sure that you are supporting all the DJs out there. And, listen, show them some love, man, because it takes a lot for a DJ to do a mix. Okay? Some DJs can do it in a half hour, and some can do it in 7 hours. It depends on what they're mixing and with what they're mixing with. You know what I mean? So show the DJ some love, show the artist some love, and listen, have a great week. Stay blessed. Please stay safe out there. And you are now locked in with me, Dancer Shades V, on the Keeping It Real Talk Show. And I will catch you guys next Wednesday, hopefully. We got a great topic going on. Come have fun with us. Get a little glass of wine. We're going to be having a really, really great conversation. So, and don't forget, on the 26th, we will have Tonasia with us on the Keeping It Real show. And we're working on some other stuff. So make sure you're checking my page, Dancer Shades V. And you can also catch all of these lives that I do with the artists and everybody else on YouTube. It's called the Keeping It Real show. Check it out. It's brand new still. So give me a chance to bring it up, Have a great week. God bless. And I'll catch you guys soon. Bye.